Just a question bringing back to some of the points that were raised earlier on, really, which is around how uncertainty is impacting on people right now. Some really interesting comments that came around things like scenario planning in such a kind of changing environment, but also around long-term strategic planning. And so I guess that my question is, and it's perhaps directed at Andrew, is really how you see leading with safe uncertainty linking to long-term strategic planning and scenario planning?
That's a great question, Jack. And by default, I'll go back to a couple of years ago, an article from Amy Edmondson that said potentially if we look at strategy as a hypothesis rather than as a plan. So for those of you who are familiar with her work, we're really saying that, okay, so if we're putting a strategic plan together, we're putting it together as a hypothesis, which is, we think it'll look like that. And then it's almost putting up for peer review because that makes it firstly adaptable and responsive to change, but also it allows critiquing and it allows ongoing evolution. So one of the things we're saying really is the long-term approach to strategy is probably, again, we'd come back to what is it we know, what is it we don't know, what can we reasonably expect to happen, but almost put it forward as a hypothesis that we can experiment with, that we can test. And if it's a hypothesis that we're testing on an ongoing basis, that builds in, and we would say again that it's that shift from predict and control to sense and respond, which comes from the agile organizational theory, which is rather than predict a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan, let's put forward a hypothesis and let's build in the feedback, let's fill back in the ability to sense and respond as we move through. And that links with a lot of the work from people like the Luba Agile and Flexible Organizations. So I think one of the things is that the approach that we're finding is pulling together a lot of quite powerful tools and approaches. So I don't know if that helps, but fundamentally shift from predict and control to sense and respond, build strategic plans as hypotheses, and as such, test them on a frequent basis. So the whole adage of fail fast, de-risk, smallest possible decision. So that's a very short answer, probably to a very long question.